Revealed. How I transformed heartbreak into an amazing Christmas miracle after being excluded by... Sarah stood at the window, gazing out at the frosted world outside, the familiar scent of cinnamon and pine wafting through the air. Snow swirled gently, covering her quaint Midwestern town in a soft white blanket. It was supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but for her, it felt like a suffocating prison. Each twinkle of holiday lights reminded her of the Christmas gatherings she had transformed into moments of pure joy, which now seemed painfully out of reach. She had chosen to end a long-term relationship that had strangled her spirit, and now she faced the chill of loneliness instead of the warmth of family. What would they think? The anxiety twisted in her stomach, and she buried her face in her hands, grappling with the clash of her choices and her family's expectations. Did they understand? Did they see the weight of her decision, or was it merely a facade of disappointment that hovered over her like an uninvited guest? The painful echoes of laughter from her family gatherings felt like wounds reopening, drumming in her ears whenever she steeled herself to venture out. Each text message from them felt like a reminder of who she was no longer, a stable partner, a reliable daughter. She was adrift, searching for a foothold in a life that felt as frozen as the winter landscape outside. Before she could spiral deeper into the darkness, Sarah's eyes were drawn to an old chest in the attic. The dust-covered box held a crumpled set of paints, remnants from a time when she expressed herself through vibrant colors. A potential glittered faintly beneath the exhaustion, and in the hushed silence of her apartment, she found herself climbing those attic stairs. She hesitated at the top, her heart racing. Was she really going to dig into the past, to uncover pieces of herself buried under years of conformity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days bled into each other, Sarah succumbed to the urge to paint. With each stroke, she poured her heartbreak onto the canvas, creating a sprawling mural echoing her family's legacy. The colors told tales of laughter shared during Christmases past, of resilience and of sacrifices made along the way. Yet the pressure loomed larger. Rent was due, bills stacked high on the small kitchen counter, while her nursing shifts fell deeper into exhaustion. Her eyelids drooped, the weight of fatigue heavy like the snow clinging to the pine branches outside her window. What if they didn't see the pain or the beauty woven in with her brush? What if her family stood before her creation and only saw her failures? Would they finally get the whole story, or would the silence speak louder? Within her heart, tension pulsed, threatening to explode. The mural had become her sanctuary, yet it was also a mirror reflecting her fears, her shattered relationship, her perceived inadequacies, the longing for understanding that made her feel so small. As Christmas approached, the room pulsed with energy, encapsulating the dread and hope swirling in her mind. Would this fragile piece be enough to bridge the gap, or would the darkness of her isolation reign another holiday season? The question hung heavily in the air as Sarah stepped back to gaze at her work, breathless and unsure if the truth they revealed would shatter the silence or ignite unhealed wounds. Tension seized her chest, leaving her without answers, only restlessness and the nagging notion that her fate rested in the hands of the loved ones who couldn't truly see her. With each passing day, the mural took on a life of its own, a vibrant tapestry of experiences that Sarah both reveled in and feared. The colors, once just pigments she had mixed, began to represent the multitude of emotions she had wrestled with: sadness, love, anger, each hue layered with memories. The act of painting became a grounding ritual, a pathway through the chaos that threatened to consume her whole. Yet, as she immersed herself deeper into this creative process, Each brushstroke became a confrontation with her past. The canvases in her small studio seemed to whisper uncomfortable truths, nudging her to examine herself beyond the shadows of abandonment and disappointment. A flicker of determination ignited within her. Perhaps the creativity she once dismissed as mere hobby, something to fill time, could be the very vehicle of her transformation. Where once there had been self-doubt and resignation, there now emerged a glimmer of resolve. Painting was her voice, a language through which she could reclaim her narrative. When Sarah finally stepped back to survey her mural, a shiver of vulnerability coursed through her. It was a bold depiction, an explosion of various scenes layered into one cohesive creation. However, her heart pounded with the harsh reality of what lay ahead. If she brought this to her family, it would provoke reactions she could hardly bear. Would they embrace her artistry, her struggle, or would they fracture her fragile essence with criticism masked as concern? Days before Christmas, the nagging pressure escalated. Fueled by either desperation or motivation, she reached out to her sister, Claire, who had always been the anchor in the midst of uncertainty. Dropping her usual facade of reluctance, Sarah invited her to see the mural, hoping for an ally in this tumultuous sea of anxiety. Her sister's tone over the phone was curious, yet Sarah could sense the skepticism festering just beneath the surface. "Are you okay? Do you really want me to come?" Claire's voice held a trace of concern that ignited renewed doubt. What if her sister couldn't grasp the extent of Sarah's upheaval? Yet the seed of determination had sprouted. "I want you to see what I've been working on. It's important to me." Each word felt like a silent plea for understanding, a bridge toward reconnecting the fractured pieces of their relationship. The day of the visit, Sarah paced nervously, her palms clammy and her heart racing at the thought of unveiling not just art, but herself in its entirety. The smattering of snow outside accented the festive spirit she longed to immerse in, but her anxieties gripped tighter. Was she truly ready to confront her past failures and showcase her journey? Finally, the doorbell rang, shattering the stillness of her resolve. Hesitation swept over her. She had nearly convinced herself to call it off, to retreat into the safety of solitude. Instead, she inhaled deeply, steadied her breath, and decided to confront whatever awaited on the other side of the door. The moment her sister walked in, Sarah felt the familiar warmth of familial love mingled with an uncertainty she could not shake off. Would this be the moment of clarity she craved, or would it lead to yet another questioning of choices she had made? As Claire stepped into her studio, Sarah formulated a plan to guide the conversation, to steer it into the depths of her design, both on canvas and within her heart. Yet, before the words could flow, Claire's gaze fell upon the mural. The silence grew heavy, and Sarah's stomach twisted tight, the tension palpable. Would the vulnerability exposed through these colors lead to understanding or judgment? With her sister's face betraying a range of emotions, Sarah's heart raced, teetering on the brink of revelation. Would this be the bridge or the divide? The moment to choose clarity or chaos hung suspended in the air, waiting for the power of truth to emerge. "Sarah," Claire finally spoke, her voice a whisper, full of potential and uncertainty. The anticipation crackled like static electricity in the room. With every second ticking by, Sarah braced herself for the impact of the truth that would define this confrontation. "Sarah." Claire's voice felt like a lifeline, fragile yet compelling. Sarah swallowed hard, tasting the weight of years caught in her throat. There it was, the moment she had both longed for and dreaded, teetering between expectation and fear. She gathered her wavering thoughts, knowing that the next few moments could either strengthen their bond or shatter it further. Sarah began, her words tentative as if they might crumble under the intensity of her sister's gaze. She traced a finger along the edge of the canvas, the texture both grounding and overwhelming. "This mural, it means everything to me." Her heart raced as she searched for the right way to express the depth of her journey stored in each brushstroke. Claire stepped closer, her eyes widening as she absorbed the sheer vibrancy before her. "It's incredible, Sarah, but—" Her voice stumbled as she hesitated to finish. "What does it all mean?" The question hit like a surge of electricity, jolting Sarah from her thoughts. She could feel the scrutiny behind Claire's words and the weight of familial expectations rising to the surface. "It's about my truth," she replied, her voice steadier now. "Every color, every scene, it tells a part of my story. I've been struggling with so much inside. This, my art, it's a way out. It's healing." Claire shifted slightly, absorbing the layers of Sarah's vulnerability. "I can see that," she said, her expression softening. "But what are you afraid of? Why didn't you share this earlier?" Fear cloaked Sarah anew. "Because—" She hesitated again, vulnerability wrestling with her instinct to protect herself. "What if I'm not taken seriously? What if it's dismissed as childish or silly? I don't know if I can handle being judged again." The raw honesty felt liberating, yet terrifying, exposing her deeper insecurities. Claire's brow furrowed, concern mingling with empathy. "Sarah, this is not just paint on a wall. It's a piece of you, and that matters more than anyone's opinion." There it was, a glimmer of support that Sarah had craved. Yet a ripple of apprehension snaked through her. What if Claire's kindness only masked the doubt she truly felt? "Do you really think it's what I hope it is?" Sarah questioned, a tremor lacing her voice. "That it actually looks good?" Self-doubt gnawed at the edges of her resolve, and she could feel her heart racing as anxiety swelled within. Art speaks differently to everyone. But to me— Claire paused, glancing from the mural to her sister's face. "It's powerful. And you're powerful for creating it." Sarah swallowed hard, tasting the bittersweet tang of tears that threatened to spill. Could it be true? Was this the first step toward reclaiming not just her love for painting, but a stronger sense of self? She felt a tremor of determination sparking within her core. The conversation turned. They dove deeper into the discussion around Sarah's artistic intentions, exploring the intricate connections between her emotions and creativity. The exchange became a crucible, shaping her ambition and solidifying a budding confidence that had laid dormant for far too long. But as the dialogue flowed, Sarah sensed an underlying tension ripple through their conversation. The holiday decorations shimmered in the natural light, mocking her unease, a festive facade that her heart hardly felt aligned with. A nagging voice in her mind whispered doubts, urging her to prepare for the inevitable questions that might arise from others, not just Claire. Would her family embrace her newfound courage? Or would their skepticism cloud the modest triumph she felt inside? And then, like a flash of lightning illuminating a hidden path, Claire asked, "Have you thought about showing this to our parents?" The tension in the room thickened. Sarah's stomach twisted. Her life had revolved around avoiding confrontation, preferring to stay within the shadows of family expectations. Yet here stood a possibility that made her hands shake with both fear and excitement. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she admitted, the weight of the decision looming colossal before her. Could she truly face the judgment she feared most? The thought echoed in her mind, calling for a reckoning that felt both necessary and terrifying. The truth was that revealing her mural might mean revealing herself in a way she had never dared before. As the silence wrapped around them once more, Sarah's heart thundered with an intoxicating mix of fear and resolve. The real challenge was taking her artwork beyond the walls of her studio and into the realm where her family's opinions loomed largest. The next breath she took brought clarity. It was time to confront the turbulent waters she had both dreaded and yearned to navigate. "Maybe I need to start thinking about it," she whispered, barely above a breath, as the realization of what lay ahead began to solidify. But before they could delve deeper, Claire's phone buzzed insistently, breaking the moment, and Sarah's resolve flickered like an exposed wire. Each incoming message seemed to tease the escalating stakes surrounding her revelation. What awaited her if she gathered the courage to take the plunge? "How about we make a plan?" Claire suggested, clearing the heaviness lingering in the air. But Sarah was already lost in her thoughts, burgeoning ideas swirling like the colors on her mural. The stakes had risen, and with them, the urgency of deliberation. As Claire spoke, Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. The time had come to face not just her family, but also the tempest within her, a tempest that begged for release, unsure if the act would bring light or engulf her entirely. The mural was no longer just paint. It was her life's precipice. Would she let the art carry her into the future she could envision, or would she retreat back into the shadows? With that thought looming, she captured the nuances of the moment, knowing fully that whatever the outcome, this journey had irrevocably begun. Sarah found herself pacing in the corner of her studio, the vibrant colors of the mural dancing in her peripheral vision. Her heart pounded as each step felt heavier than the last, a tangible reminder of the fear that slithered through her thoughts. Claire's question echoed, a relentless echo demanding her attention. "Have you thought about showing this to our parents?" The thought paralyzed her, twisting her stomach in knots. Could she truly reveal something so deeply personal to the very people who had shaped her insecurities? She brushed her fingers against the paint-splattered canvas, feeling its rough texture, grounding herself in the tangible evidence of her work and dedication. Each stroke represented not only her artistic vision, but also her struggles, fears, and ultimately her emerging resolve to be more than just a shadow. "Plan," she muttered under her breath as her fingers shook around the brush, remembering Claire's suggestion. A plan could provide structure, a framework to deal with the messy emotions swirling inside her. Perhaps she could face them, and perhaps, just perhaps, they might see her heart laid out before them, rather than just a collection of splashes and strokes. With newfound purpose, she grabbed her notebook and opened to the blank page, poised to map out the steps ahead. The first bullet point was easy. Write down what the mural means. Her hand moved quickly, a rush of words flowing freely as she poured out her heart. She wrote of her struggles with self-acceptance, the shadows of doubt that haunted her, and the process of painting as a means of healing. As she wrote, her confidence began to swell. The second point was harder. Decide on a date to show them. The weight of this task felt heavier. She stared at the blank line, and seconds stretched like hours as she contemplated the parental reaction. What if their faces reflected disappointment or confusion? What if they belittled her efforts, returning her to that dark place she struggled to escape? Drawing a deep breath, she steadied her hand. "December 20th, she wrote defiantly. Right before Christmas, a time for family, connection, and rebirth. The thought of this timing stirred something profound within her, a commitment to embrace whatever might come, rather than shrink back from potential judgment. Now that she had a date, her thoughts intertwined with quickening anticipation. Practice what to say, she noted next, realizing how necessary it was to articulate the significance of her art to them. How could she share the truth entwined in the canvas without sounding defensive? Sarah envisioned herself standing there, words forming a bridge between her heart and their minds, each term a wary step into the unknown. Would they see her? Would they understand the journey she had taken? The possibility of connection sparked a flicker of excitement amid the fear. Suddenly, a downward spiral of doubt threatened to draw her back in. What if everything fell apart? What if her parents dismissed her hard work, reducing it to nothing but a hobby? The vision of their faces dissolving into disappointment shattered her fragile confidence. In that moment of vulnerability, she forced her gaze back to the mural. The colors spoke. Each represented strength and resolve, a testament to battles already fought. "I can do this," she whispered, invoking a mantra she hoped would take hold. With a newfound determination, she picked up her phone and sent a quick text to Claire. "Let's meet tomorrow to talk more about the plan." After she pressed send, a bright spark of hope ignited within. This was more than just sharing her art. It was about standing up for herself. It was about claiming her voice, reshaping her narrative, and, perhaps, inviting the very people who had once doubted her to understand and appreciate her truth. The night stretched on, but as she stood before her mural, a sense of peace washed over her. The intricate strokes glimmered under the studio light, and for the first time she felt as though they were more than just reflections of her struggles. They were symbols of her resilience and the promise of transformation. Come December 20th, the revelations could either carve new paths of understanding or sever old ties made of fear. The thought of it all left her heart racing anew, as the significance of her decision began to compose an orchestra of anticipation in her chest. As she turned to leave her studio, Sarah paused at the door, glancing back at the mural one last time. The colors whispered encouragement, and she knew that the tapestry of her past could finally become the foundation for her future. But before she could step away from the threshold of this life-affirming moment, the undeniable question surged back to the forefront of her mind. Would she be able to bear the weight of their response? Would her revelation ignite a path of acceptance or toss her back into the shadows? Resolute yet trembling, she made her way home, the night air crisp and electric. The greatest test was yet to come, the night she would finally unveil the truth behind the colors. Would it lead to a Christmas miracle, or would the darkness close in once more? The morning sunlight streamed through Sarah's window, casting striped shadows across her cluttered desk. It was December 19th, just one day until the moment she had circled on her calendar with a bold red marker. Excitement burbled within her, yet a nagging apprehension lingered at the edges of her thoughts, threading tension through her body. Today, she set aside time to practice what she would say, determined to leave no room for stray insecurities to slither back in. With her notebook open in front of her, she regarded the musings she had hastily penned the night before. They were raw, powerful, but would they be enough? She took a deep breath and gathered her courage. Each word she crafted was not merely an exploration of her artistic endeavor. They were the very nerves of her heart laid out for scrutiny. "This mural represents my battle with self-doubt," she began to write, "a vibrant expression of my journey toward healing." The ink flowed freely as she tapped into her vulnerability, peeling back layers she long wanted to hide. As she paused to consider her thoughts, her phone buzzed, pulling her back to reality. Claire's message flashed on the screen. "Can we meet early? I have an idea for your presentation." Excitement prickled at Sarah's core. Claire had always been her most steadfast ally, the one who encouraged her to embrace her artistry. With the clock ticking, Sarah quickly replied, "Sure, I'll head to the coffee shop in an hour." When she arrived, Claire was already seated, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her, her gaze flickering up with an eagerness that matched Sarah's own. "I've been thinking," Claire started, her fingers tapping thoughtfully on her mug. "Maybe you should practice in front of me. I can give you feedback." The suggestion had merit, yet it was also terrifying. What if the reality of speaking her truth rendered her mute? In an effort to mask the apprehension, she nodded. "That sounds like a plan." Taking her seat across from Claire, the momentum transformed from anxiety to action. Sarah leaned forward, words spilling from her like watercolor paint on canvas. As she recited her speech, the initial tremors in her voice stabilized, the notes following the rhythm of her heart. Claire's encouragement propelled her further. "You're making a connection. You're bringing your audience into your experience." Each interaction drew Sarah deeper into the narrative she had been crafting. The skepticism wavering in the back of her mind began to fade, nudged aside by a growing belief in her message. "You have to emphasize how this mural reflects your resilience," Claire intoned, her brows knitting in thought. Your parents need to understand that this isn't just art, it's a piece of your soul. Troubling thoughts lurked, but with every moment of practice, Sarah felt an intoxicating surge of belief that resonated through her. When the practice session concluded, she felt lighter, as if the weight of her fears had dissipated like morning mist. Walking home afterward, the chill in the air was crisp and refreshing, mirroring the clarity that permeated her thoughts. The duality of her emotions was palpable. Anticipation swirled with trepidation. Tomorrow would yield a reckoning, a display of her inner landscape, the colors, the struggles, the triumphs. For the first time in years, her voice felt like an armament, forged in the fires of doubt, tempered by courage. When she reached the threshold of her home, she paused, bracing for what lay ahead. As the door creaked open, a familiar din greeted her, echoing the warmth of her family. Yet, at the back of her mind, a deeper question lingered. Would they truly embrace her journey, or would it spiral into another facade of misunderstanding? Stepping into the cozy embrace of her home, she caught a glimpse of her parents engaging with another, laughter harmonizing in the space. Suddenly, the weight of the moment pressed on her chest. With so much at stake, would she rise or falter at the edge of vulnerability? Tomorrow, when the truth descended, would their response pave the way for acceptance or plunge her deeper into uncertainty? Only time would reveal the answers that danced tantalizingly before her, a reminder that some truths were both liberating and frightening, shaping not just art, but Sarah herself. The chill of the night air seeped through the cracks of the old wooden house, carrying whispers of uncertainty as Sarah settled into her room. Her heart pounded like a distant drum, the rhythmic echo of what lay ahead. Tomorrow loomed large. Her presentation was not just about the mural. It was an emotional open door, revealing the very core of her being. She lowered herself onto the bed, her notebook lying open beside her like a sentinel of her fearless pursuit. Each scribbled word mirrored her struggle, reflecting vulnerabilities she had kept tightly tucked away. Now they threatened to spill into the open, raw and ripe for scrutiny. Tonight, she could already feel the expectations pressing down on her from every angle. Her parents' hopes for a successful daughter, and the ease with which they moved through their own lives, seemingly untouched by any of the doubts that plagued her. A flicker of doubt crept in, reminding her of all the times she had swallowed her voice to fit the mold of what others expected. But now, fate held her in its hands. It was time to disrupt the narrative that had held her captive. A knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts, and her mother stepped inside. "Hey, tired?" she asked, her eyes glinting with the warmth of familial bond. "A little," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They exchanged a few pleasantries, but soon her mother's gaze stumbled onto the open notebook. "What's that?" she asked, genuine curiosity flickering on her face. Instantly, embarrassment curled in Sarah's stomach. Should she share her thoughts now, a day before opening herself to all? Or hold back and wait for the big reveal? "Just some ideas," she mumbled, closing the notebook, unwilling to reveal anything yet. Her mother nodded, discerning the subtle tension. "You know, I always believed pursuing art would lead you to incredible places." The words felt heavy and laden with expectation. The pressure gripped Sarah tightly, forming a knot in her throat. She appreciated her mother's support, but it weighed on her, an implicit challenge to break through the facade and achieve what they deemed success. After her mother left, she was engulfed by shadows, her thoughts racing. Could she transform her fear and anxiety into strength? The answer felt precarious, teetering on the edge of realization. Billowing clouds of doubt threatened to ensnare her resolve, but beneath them sparked glimmers of ambition. She was on the verge of uncovering a transformative power, wrestling with the tension that was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. She grabbed a brush and a piece of paper and started painting, colors swirling and merging, reflecting the tumult of her emotions. As vibrant reds mixed with soft blues, she began to uncover something within herself. A hidden clarity that told her the mural wasn't just an art piece. It represented her will to resurface against all odds. Time evaporated as she worked, her fears slowly eclipsed by a profound sense of ownership over her story. When she finally paused, the canvas was alive, pulsating with the energy of her courage and vulnerability. This was more than just a mural. It was a declaration of her existence and resilience. With renewed determination, she dipped her brush and began sketching words into the corners of the canvas. Resilience, healing, truth. Each stroke affirmed her own strength, a captivating rhythm reminiscent of her heart's thrum. Far from the unyielding grip of fear, Sarah now harbored a profound lesson. Vulnerability was not the absence of strength. It was the foundation upon which she could build her true self. As she worked into the night, Sarah felt the anticipation of tomorrow shift from dread to exhilaration. Her thoughts, once clouded by self-doubt, crystallized into a mosaic of hope. With the dawn's light inching closer, a new question filled the space where doubt once ruled. How would her parents interpret her revelation? The moment of truth approached, pulsing with the potential for acceptance or misunderstanding. Would this mural, her testament, shatter their perceptions or pave a new path toward connection? Only the unveiling of her truth and the response it garnered would determine the course of her journey. As she stepped back from her work, a sudden realization pierced through her, invigorating her spirit. She wasn't just preparing for a presentation. She was reclaiming her narrative, daring to be seen and ultimately transformed. All that remained was to confront the audience she feared most. Her family. Sarah woke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through her window, the light dancing over the mural that had consumed her thoughts. It was almost surreal. The chaos of the previous night had transmuted into a vivid masterpiece, one that pulsated with her fears, hopes, and undeniable truths. But as she dressed, her stomach churned with anxiety, a remnant of self-doubt creeping back in. Standing in front of the mirror, she examined her reflection, searching for the courage to face her family, her audience of critics and supporters alike. What if they didn't understand? What if the mural, an emblem of her inner struggle, fell flat against their expectations? She combed her fingers through her hair, trying to will away the insecurities that poked at her every thought. Breath steadying, she decided to focus on the mural's significance rather than the response it might elicit. Art had always been her language, a medium through which she expressed truths that shimmered beneath the surface. Today, she resolved to draw strength from that knowledge and embrace the potential for her truth to resonate with those who mattered most. Each brushstroke had been a step toward her own empowerment. But it wasn't just about sharing art. It was about sharing herself. The aroma of breakfast wafted through the house as Sarah made her way to the kitchen where her parents were already engaged in casual conversation. She hesitated, standing just outside the entrance, drawn to their comforting familiarity, yet rooted by an undercurrent of apprehension. They sat at the table, laughter spilling from their lips, a sound that both warmed her heart and tightened the knot of fear in her stomach. Taking a deep breath, she entered the room. "Hey, can I show you something?" she asked, the words almost quaking in her throat. Her mother looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to curiosity. "Of course. What is it?" As they moved to the living room, Sarah led them to the wall where her mural hung, bathed in the first light of morning. Their eyes widened, and Sarah could feel their weighty expectations as they took it in, seeking meaning and context within the colors and intricate shapes. "I know the last few months have been rough. I haven't followed the traditional path," she began, gripping the edges of her own vulnerability. "But this mural? It's everything I've been feeling. It's about resilience, healing. It's my story." Silence enveloped the room, a suffocating shroud. She had expected her parents to critique her approach, to question the direction her life had taken. But she sensed their hesitation to respond. The air thickened with unspoken words, and Sarah's heart raced. Doubts spiraled again. Whispers of rejection echoed in her mind. Was she too raw? Had she exposed too much? Finally, her father broke the silence. "It's bold, Sarah. I can see you poured yourself into this." His voice was steady but laced with uncertainty, and she couldn't decipher if it was appreciation or confusion. "Did you draw this?" her mother added, her tone mingling wonder and concern. "Yes," Sarah nodded vigorously, her voice firmer now, "and I want to explain the different elements. Each part reflects experiences that pushed me to grow. You always taught me to face my truths, to embrace who I really am. I hope this helps you see me." Eyes darted between the mural and their daughter. Each stroke of paint ignited flickers of realization. But the lingering pause seemed infinite, amplifying the vulnerability that swelled within her heart. There was an urgency in the atmosphere, a need for connection that felt more pressing than ever. What if they didn't accept this side of her? What if the reality she'd painted shattered the perceptions they held? Just when she was about to succumb to the weight of her fears, her mother finally stepped forward, pressing her fingers against the vibrant colors. "It's beautiful," she breathed, and for a brief moment, a rush of gratitude enveloped Sarah. She hadn't anticipated relief flowing through her veins like a current, but uncertainty simmered in the air. They had acknowledged her effort, but the deeper acceptance of her identity was still unknown. "Tell us the story, Sarah," her father said, with an encouraging nod, his demeanor shifting as curiosity eclipsed confusion. In the heart of that moment, Sarah felt herself staring into a transformative lens. Their connection dangled delicately in the balance of acceptance. Would the unveiling of her truth foster a deeper understanding between them, or would it expose the chasms that had long existed? There was only one way to find out, and with every beat of her heart, she realized that sharing her journey was about to test the very foundation of her relationships. With resolve settling within, she began to recount her struggles, her ambitions, the raw emotions wound into the mural. It was both freeing and terrifying, and as she spoke, she braced for the unexpected, an emotional exploration that had the potential to reshape their family dynamic forever. As Sarah spoke, the words flowed like paint from her brush, sometimes streaky, sometimes fluid, but always vibrant with truth. The mural had begun to reveal more than just colors and forms. It was a living history, a canvas mapping the terrain of her heart. With each revelation, she noticed her parents leaning closer, their body language softening, but lingering threads of uncertainty remained. "I struggled with feelings of inadequacy this past year," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "There were moments I doubted my worth, especially when I chose to step away from the typical path. I feared disappointing you, but painting this has helped me find clarity." She glanced at their faces, searching for understanding in their eyes. Her father shifted in his seat. "You never have to fear disappointing us," he said, choosing his words carefully. "It's just, we didn't know you were feeling this way. We only saw the surface." "And sometimes," her mother added softly, "it's hard to reconcile what's happening inside with what we think we understand. You've always been such a strong person, Sarah. It's scary to think of you as vulnerable." Those words resonated painfully. The vulnerability she had hidden from them was cracking open before their eyes. "But I am vulnerable," she insisted gently, "and that's okay. This mural isn't just about strength. It shows the struggle to balance who I am versus who I'm expected to be. I'm learning to embrace all parts of myself." The emotional exchange hung heavy in the air, almost tangible. Breaths were deepened, chests expanded and contracted as they processed her revelations. Their reactions were not as critical as she had feared, but rather an invitation to delve deeper, to explore the shadows she had painted in broad strokes for them to see. "Why did you choose to paint in this style, Sarah?" her father asked, a spark of curiosity igniting in his tone. It's chaotic, but purposeful, she responded after a pause. It reflects my inner turmoil. Each color, she pointed to a brilliant red swirl, represents rage and passion. The blues reflect sadness and longing. It's messy because that's how I felt, like I couldn't contain all these emotions. Creating it was cathartic. Sarah could see the wheels turning in their heads as they processed this. Her mother's brows knitted together in thought. It's remarkable that you worked through these feelings in such an impactful way. But I want to know, she asked, was it easy to stay authentic to yourself when you created it? An unexpected wave of gratitude washed over Sarah. Her mother was finally asking the right questions, wanting to understand her process instead of dismissing it. Yet the reality of that question struck her. Was it easy? No, she admitted. No, it wasn't easy. The hardest part was accepting that sometimes I don't know what to feel, and being honest about that with myself, let alone with you. The air shifted again as silence settled back in. Sarah felt a knot of frustration bubble up, threatening to unravel all she had shared. Had her truth made a dent in their perceptions? Or was she about to experience a deeper divide? Do you really think your art can bridge this gap? Her father posed, tilting his head in contemplation. Between how we see you and who you truly are? Art is a mirror, she replied, steadier now. But it's only a start. The real bridging happens when we talk, when the layers beneath the paint begin to show. And I'm ready to start that conversation, no matter how uncomfortable. A shift in her parents' expressions hinted at realization, a breakthrough tinged with understanding. Yet, uncertainty still loomed in the room, an uninvited guest that refused to leave. Sarah felt an urgency to keep pushing the dialogue forward, to unearth everything that lay beneath the surface. I want to keep painting, keep exploring who I am, she declared, her voice grounding in purpose. But I also want us as a family to understand each other better, to face the discomfort together. What does that look like for you? Her mother's question was laced with hope and hesitation. Sarah paused, the weight of her next words pressing against her chest. She could feel the path ahead brimming with potential, her art met with familial understanding, the paradox of healing and fear woven into every thought. I think it begins with us talking more, she said slowly, forming each word with intention. Maybe even sharing our own stories, the things we've held back. Can we do that? But even as she suggested it, Sarah could feel the tension tightening again, the fear of what might be unearthed lurking just beneath the surface. Would they agree to open up? Would real connection emerge, or would this push them further apart? The anticipation thickened. The moment of truth was ever approaching. Each heartbeat echoed her unspoken questions. Would this pivotal step forward carve a new path for their relationship, or would it lead to greater fracture? Sarah, I think, her father began, a look of deep contemplation crossing his face. And just then, the chime of the doorbell resonated through the house, cutting through the palpable tension. In that instant, all eyes shifted away from the mural, and with it, the gravity of the moment hung delicately in the balance. What awaited them at the door could change everything. Sarah's heart raced as she exchanged wary glances with her parents. The doorbell's chime felt like an intrusion. The momentum of their conversation abruptly derailed. Her father rose slowly, his face still etched with contemplative concern, as he approached the door. What lay behind that door could be anything: family, friends, maybe unexpected visitors. But did it matter? In this moment, Sarah's mind spun with the risk of pulling focus from the cathartic vulnerability they had just shared. With a slight hesitation, her father opened the door, revealing a delivery person holding a festive package adorned with a bright red bow. "Special delivery for the McKenna household," the courier announced cheerily. At first, Sarah felt relief wash over her. This mundane interruption felt like a brief escape, but then anxious curiosity surfaced. What if the package contained sentiments of the joyful season, reminders of their strained family dynamic? Her father signed for the package, and it was passed into his hands. As he placed it on the coffee table, Sarah noted her mother's eyes narrowing in suspicion. "Who sent this?" she asked, her voice laced with equal parts anticipation and wariness. "It's from Aunt Claire," her father replied, a hint of surprise mingling with his tone. "I hadn't heard from her in a while." Sarah recalled the last encounter with her aunt, a Christmas spent in silence, the air thick with an unspoken rift between their families. Whatever sentiments had wrapped this package, she suspected they would only deepen their current conversation's complexity. "Open it," her mother urged, tension crackling between them. With a pensive nod, Sarah leaned forward. As the shimmering wrapping paper fell away, a cascade of lights spilled forth, alongside a hand-painted ornament resembling their home, a vibrant depiction of their life as it existed before fractures formed. The irony teetered on the edge of painful and beautiful, like an unexpected twist in a story she thought she'd authored alone. "This is stunning," was all her father managed, his voice betraying the emotion it conjured. She remembered. Reality dawned on Sarah as she recalled Aunt Claire's absence from their narrative, a family member who had chosen neutrality in their turmoil, skillfully sidestepping the uncomfortable tensions. Yet here was an invitation to remember their shared history, tucked inside this moment of unforeseen warmth. But Sarah couldn't help but question the underlying motivations. Was this a peace offering, or a veiled censure that summoned the past into the present? Each element felt like a jigsaw piece of her complex relationship with family. "I didn't expect her to reach out like this," Sarah admitted. Her voice emerged not from joy, but apprehension. "What does this mean for us?" "I think it means she wants to reconnect," her father offered gently, yet Sarah sensed the hesitance in his tone. "It's a chance for all of us." "To confront an elephant in the room?" her mother interrupted, arms crossed. Echoes of skepticism lingered in her eyes. An electrifying thought sparked in Sarah's mind. What if this was a sign? An opportunity to glean some understanding from family dynamics that had long become tangled and fraught. Perhaps the ornament was an olive branch, coaxing her to step further into vulnerability, to brave the conversation initiated by the mural. Before her mind devolved into self-doubt, a solid resolve began to crystallize in her chest. "Maybe we can invite her over, share the mural. I could tell her my story. Maybe it might encourage her to share hers. It could help mend wounds that we thought would never heal." Both parents stared at her, the moment thick with potential. "Sarah, you're suggesting we open ourselves not only to Aunt Claire, but to everyone?" her father asked, a mix of disbelief and pride coloring his words. "Exactly," she replied, gaining momentum. "If we're going to face these uncomfortable truths, why not include the people who've played a part in our story?" A cautious thrill surged through the room. Could engaging Aunt Claire rekindle connections they had long thought lost, possibly reopening layers of intimacy previously obscured? With each word, Sarah felt a shift unfurling within her, an embracing of her fears and aspirations. Yet, in the back of her mind, her thoughts tinged with uncertainty. Would her aunt embrace this shift, or resist it, driving them back into silence? "Okay," her mother began, the tension in her voice softening for the first time that evening. "Let's reach out. But let's also be prepared." Sarah nodded contemplatively, all at once excited and apprehensive, her heart echoing with newfound determination, approaching the unknowns ahead. Now was the time to connect the scattered threads of her family narrative into something complete, just like her mural. As they formulated a plan, the doorbell rang again, an unexpected reminder that life was often at odds with their conversations. Each chime felt like a new layer to peel away. What revealing moments were still ahead? Would they navigate the murky waters of unresolved issues? With those thoughts swirling in her mind, Sarah felt the weight of possibility pressing against her, ever eager to see how far this journey would take her. That night, as Sarah sat together with her parents in the warmth of the living room, the atmosphere shifted. They ventured forth into scheduling a reunion with Aunt Claire, shrouded with a mix of excitement and trepidation. It was clear that this endeavor had become more than just a simple family gathering. It was a chance for renewal, a potential mending of the emotional rifts that had constrained them all. The days leading up to the reunion felt like a cascade of growing anticipation. Each morning, Sarah would awaken and gaze at the mural, which had become a beacon of her journey toward self-discovery and acceptance. It no longer felt like merely a piece of art. It was a declaration that she was ready to confront her past and embrace the complexities that came with vulnerability. Finally, the evening of the gathering arrived, and Sarah prepared for the family to come together. The scent of baked goods wafted through her home, mingling with fresh coffee, evoking a sense of comfort and nostalgia. She gathered her thoughts and rehearsed what she would say, ensuring the tapestry of her experience would flow seamlessly as she introduced Aunt Claire to the mural. When her aunt arrived, Sarah's heart raced. The moment was fraught with the weight of expectations, but she welcomed Claire with an open smile, determined to let her guard down. Claire embraced her warmly, the moment serving as a bridge across the unspoken tensions from the past. A fresh start. As Sarah guided Claire to the mural, she could see the curiosity flicker in her aunt's eyes. The colors pulsed with life, each stroke awash with the narrative Sarah had spent months cultivating, and this was the moment she had long envisioned. "This is my journey," Sarah began, her voice growing steadier as she pointed to the various elements of the mural. She was met with rapt attention as she shared her struggle with fear and inadequacy, painting her reality with words as vividly as she had with colors. Each confession deepened the connection, drawing her family into a realm that had been closed off for far too long. Gradually, Claire's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding. "This is remarkable, Sarah," she said, her voice tinged with pride. "I had no idea you were going through all this. I left so many things unsaid, afraid they wouldn't be understood. But look at you now. This is beautiful." An unexpected warmth surged through Sarah at her aunt's acknowledgement. It felt like the first warm glow of acceptance after a long winter's night. Yet still, uncertainty loomed over her. "I hope by sharing this, we can navigate our conversations easier, together," she replied, sensing not just her own growth, but a collective willingness among them all to face their shared narratives. As the conversations deepened, Sarah discovered that Aunt Claire shared her own feelings of isolation. The stories flowed freely. They exchanged reflections, exploring the complicated dynamics of family, struggles with expectations and aspirations that had tangled across generations. Thus the mural acted as a catalyst, sort of a media for unified catharsis. Her parents, witnessing the depth of this connection, began to open up themselves. "You know, we also worried about you," her father shared. "We thought we understood your choices, but we didn't take the time to ask the real questions." This admission shifted something deep within Sarah. She realized that understanding was a two-way street, necessitating vulnerability from all sides. The night stretched on, filled with laughter, shared stories, and the weaving together of previously fragmented familial ties. As she stood there, surrounded by her family, Sarah felt an unshakable sense of fulfillment. Her heart, once gripped by uncertainty, now swelled with gratitude. Through her courage, she had engaged her family in a way that nurtured not only her own transformation, but also allowed them all to grow together. This revelation resonated deeply. She was not just a product of her struggles, she was the architect of her own narrative, and she had successfully invited her family into that process. By the end of the evening, they found themselves united around the mural, a collective understanding forming like an intricate tapestry. There was laughter and joy where once there had been silence and discomfort. As Sarah reflected on the transformation of her family dynamic, it became clear. She no longer viewed the mural as a relic of her heartbreak, but as a powerful testament to her resilience, her creativity, and her determination to forge deeper connections. With solid confidence, recognized competence, and an established position within her family, Sarah had not only achieved a personal milestone, she had sparked the transformation of those around her. This Christmas, instead of just confronting her past, she had embraced her journey forward, stepping into the light with her family by her side. As she breathed deeply, savoring the moment, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The mural now stood as not just an art piece, but a foundational symbol of love, acceptance, and the magical transformation that had occurred, all revealed through the colors of her journey. The ultimate miracle sewn into every brushstroke was not just the healing she had achieved, but the family she had reclaimed. And now, you need to experience more stories like this, these journeys of transformation and triumph. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that could inspire your own life. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and share the joy of these empowering narratives. We want to hear your reactions. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about this beautiful conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this story of overcoming and growth. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's create a community of support together.